Hi, I'm Carissa, and today with the help of Joe, I'll be teaching you extended side angle pose. So Joe will first demonstrate the posture with correct alignment, and then we'll take a moment to show some of the most common misalignments that we see with this pose. So as with every yoga pose, we'll start our cueing from the ground up. So Joe's going to start by taking a wide stance on her mat. About 3 to 4 feet will be sufficient to begin. She'll turn her left toes in slightly towards the middle of her mat, and her right toes turn out 90 degrees, so her right foot runs parallel to the long edge of the mat. With arms out, just like a warrior two, she's going to lunge into her right knee, stacking her right knee directly over her right ankle. Now, just a special note here that because the back toes are pointing in and her knee is extended, she'll have slight internal rotation of her left hip. On the other hand, the right hip is externally rotating. So the head of her femur, which is her thigh bone, is going to draw back into the hip socket. You may hear the cue of sliding your tailbone towards your back heel or your right sitting bone tucking underneath your body. So to move into extended side angle, Jo is first going to extend her torso as far out over her right thigh as she can. So here, as you can see, both sides of the body remain long. Once she's reached her fullest length, she'll then drop her right forearm onto her right thigh with palm up. Left arm stacks, so wrist over shoulder, and palm starts facing the front of the room. So here she's keeping her shoulder integrated with her upper torso. Now, if she can keep her chest open, she'll rotate from her forearm so her palm faces the direction of her head and start to reach her left arm out over her ear. So you can see here that Jo has a nice steady line from her left heel all the way up through her left fingertips. So when you think about an angle is formed by joining two straight lines. So the most important quality of this pose here is to find that straight line through the left side of the body, as well as a straight line from the inner left heel all the way through the right shoulder. So we can show this visually here when we place a pipe against the left side of Jo's body. So when you lay the pipe against the body, you can see that all points of the left body run right along the same line as the pipe. Now, because Jo is working into a lunge position, it's likely that after several breaths, she'll start to feel a little bit of fatigue in her muscles. So we'll let Jo go ahead and come on up, and then we'll go to the other side to demonstrate the misalignments. Good. So go ahead and start by coming into your warrior two, but this time, instead of extending the torso forward, Jo's going to just drop the left forearm down onto the thigh. Her right arm will reach out over the ear. So as she does this, she's now come into more of a lateral flexion or a side bend. And when Jo laterally flexes her spine, the right side of the body expands, the right rib cage expands, while the left side of the body contracts. So in order to correct that, Jo wants to come back to the mountain torso. So she's dropping her right ribs down into her body. When she comes out of the side bend, automatically the left side of the body will lengthen again. Now, the next misalignment comes when students make the mistake of loading all their weight down into the left thigh. So instead of just having the weight of the forearm, you can see here that Jo's body weight is actually sinking down onto her thigh. And that's evidenced by her shoulder creeping up into her ear, her head's kind of just hanging. If she were to move her left arm off her leg, the pose would collapse. So very important to check in that you are just having the weight of the forearm on the thigh and not the weight of the entire body. Now, keeping in mind that the key point to this pose is maintaining the angle of the body, sometimes students are eager to get their left hand to the floor, so that point becomes compromised. So you'll see here as Jo reaches her left hand to the floor, if her hips aren't quite ready for that action, she now has created some rounding through the right side of her hips. So her heart here is sinking lower than her hips are, and that's creating a bend in the body when really you're looking for that nice straight angle. So a way that you can modify here would be to actually lift the hand and take a block underneath the hand. So most blocks will have 3 settings, so if you need to go a little bit higher, and then even to a tallest block. So you want to be able to find that point where the heart is lifted at least slightly higher than the hips. Now, if Jo's hips are very open, which they are, and she were to have her left forearm onto her thigh, the opposite would happen. So her hips would be sinking down nice and low, but her heart would be lifting up really high. So here, her hips, instead of like a speed bump, are now a dip or a valley in the line of the angle. So to correct for that, Jo would then need to make sure that she was pushing down through her feet, lifting her hips, and then her left hand would likely be able to rest down onto the floor. So again, always working to maintain the angle of the body takes priority over being able to touch the ground. If the right chest is unable to stay open, and as you reach the right arm over your ear, your chest collapses forward, then a great modification would be just to keep your wrist stacking over your shoulder. Work to keep the chest open, and then over time you can work with rotation of the forearm, starting to stretch your right arm out over your ear. So really important when you're coming up to standing, you press down through your feet and engage your core to stand back up again. So extended side angle pose is a great pose to strengthen and stretch your ankle joints, your knee joints, your legs. It's a great pose for stretching the groins, the spine, the waist, the chest, the lungs, and it's a great pose for building muscular endurance. So hopefully you found today's video helpful. We thank you for watching. Namaste.